Attending, we have Dotagu recording for our recording audio for personal reasons. Sure. And if you all didn't sign in, we ask that you sign in so we can note you on our minutes that you were here in attendance. So I don't think, is the revised version out there, John?
Yes.
Okay, so we had a couple changes, but the revised version is what you all should have. Connie Brossman, you're on here to speak a public comment for budget.
Yes, Connie Grossman, 1056 Line Road. Back in November, during the workshop meetings, when you guys were working on the budget, it was kind of a mess, the budget. And so then you talked about passing it in December, but then you were going to reopen it, and there was some discussion about those things. And so I'm just wondering, because you did pass it, what came of all that? And you were going to actually, I think, there was some talk about hiring an accountant, you know, many things that were discussed. And then next thing, you passed the budget in December, which we didn't really know where everything ended up at that point. So I'm just curious.
Well, at the December meeting, we went over several items, several, I say maybe 3 or 4 that were of concern, but they all fell underneath the either 10% per line item or...
Yeah, they were, my recollection is, first of all, they advertised and they adopted the budget. The budget was adopted in December. My recollection from that meeting is there were a couple slight, I don't know if they were more grammatical or more arithmetic errors that were corrected, and they were all within threshold of needing to re-advertise the budget. They were more, my recollection, were corrections, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they were all fell within the whatever is allowed per, is it the township code or is it?
Second class township code allows for, once you advertise the budget, if there are any changes at the hearing where you adopt the budget, they have to be, I think it's 10, either 10 and 15 or 10 and 20%, depending upon if it's the overall budget or just a line item or category.
So it's non-material in nature.
So once we went over that, and we went line per line at the meeting and did that, I'm sure it's probably posted on YouTube by
Well, I
Dot.
saw the budget, but my concern is that, I mean, there was, we're not in a good place, I'll just say that. From my understanding, what I evaluated from the budget, even back in August, which I had brought to your attention, and then you passed the budget, and maybe it's in the range of where you were gonna be. I guess there was job evaluations. When did those get conducted?
So we did those in December. We had a powwow all day Friday because we had interviews, and then we wound up doing reviews. It was before the budget. No, it was before the budget. I think it was the Friday before the
And the
budget.
supervisors did that?
Well, they weren't here. Yeah, the supervisors did.
Okay. And then in January, after you passed the budget, which is in December, I mean, because you were talking about, there was some discussion with the chief about a new police car and some things with the police department, and you, Jack, said, I don't know, based on this budget, I don't know if I don't want to agree to that at that point in time. And then, the budget was passed in December, and then we, went to January, and in one meeting, you spent $85,000. That wasn't even part of that budget. So I'm just curious where the money, how that all came about.
Well, it's absolutely in the budget. We didn't spend out of the
Anything
budget.
was outside the budget.
So you're saying that the police car was in the budget then?
Yes,
That was put back in December? Because November, you didn't want to have any...
No, I think what Jack was looking was future, I remember this.
I don't
You were
recall
looking at,
ever speaking against the
Right.
police car. My comments were in generally directed to the entire budget and the lack or the questionability of things just weren't adding up. And
Right.
we clarified most of that to my satisfaction, as I was the one that brought up the issue, and they were reflected by everyone here. By the time it got to the December meeting, those issues, in my mind, for my satisfaction, were resolved, and I voted to accept.
So as a taxpayer, I shouldn't have any concerns because you guys, everything's all good here because, I mean, there was $2.5 million from the previous board. Where is that money? Because you spent quite a bit of that money.
It's all spelled
still
out
there?
in the carryover. Yes, we were
2.5.
Money's in the bank, yes.
we were projecting
2.5 or is
I
it
think it's around $2 million mark.
right now?
Correct.
Okay, because I know that was dispersed in this little, area, this all
There
over.
were
and
some
it's hard
things
to
at the
spot.
end of the year that were redistributed into capital reserves. I think there's a new fund that was created for that, so the money's still reserved, it's unspent. We'll be looking at all those throughout the year. I know you
Yeah.
guys don't know me from anybody
Right.
from right now, but I'm the new Township Manager, and my background is in finance and budgeting.
Great.
So I'll be
need
working at it very closely,
I don't have
and
the budget with me.
I looked at it very closely before I took the job too. So
That's good.
we'll be having some discussions here, and it's about accountability. So we already implemented some procedures internally to make sure that every dollar spent can be defended. So there will be
Yeah, and that's where I was
transparency.
going with that. I don't know if we needed to have any type of investigation or anything like that based on the November meeting. So, and then we passed it. So I just was curious where we were financially as a township.
Well, I will say it is your opinion that you're stating that you think that we're in trouble. It is not the opinion of the three of us sitting here. So there is absolutely no trouble. We have $2 million in carryover.
Anyone can actually go and listen to the audios.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
There was
that meeting
there
that
was
I
never a
at-
concern on where the money was or wasn't. The concern was for the budget, which is simply a piece of paper projecting where the money's going to go. So my concern, as I said, in those meetings was the formulas. Someone is manually entering these, and there's numbers missing and not. There's no numbers missing from the bank statements. There's no missing checks. Those would be things that would cause me for concern. My concern was not related to the day-to-day financial transactions. My concern was limited to the budget and how it was prepared and the quality to which it was prepared.
Right, I get, what you're saying in that respect, but I'm saying money in, money out, that's my concern.
And we're stating
And that's
that
what I was looking at.
there shouldn't be a
When I
concern.
talked to Jenna, I ended up talking to her, and she was saying that these problems existed even before she was here. So, and I know it did not, but, I did speak to her. I did call her about that.
5, 6 years ago, or even 4 years ago, you thought the budget was clear and you understood it completely.
Yes,
Really?
yes.
Wasn't that the
I'm
time
pretty sure
where
you were saying a different tune back then.
A
Yeah.
different,
Oh, yeah.
no, because I actually read it and had something.
Okay, Connie. All right.
I would propose to move
I-
on.
I-
If you need further information, John will be
Yeah,
more than
that's
happy to-
fine.
Okay. Yes, Jane.
Well, just on continuation with the budget, back in 2016, there was a resolution in relation to the Campbelltown Park. And there wasn't enough money, and there was some issue with the development, the Carriage Park development, and there was money that somehow didn't get funded for the park, and you owed X amount, like 40-some thousand, and as of 2019, there was 34,736, and in this budget, there's 21,974 to get rid of that mistake that was made with the Carriage Park. So there's 12,802 that still have to be transferred so that the Carriage Park can have a pavilion and a playground that were promised back about 4 or 5 years ago. And the county is holding 7,000 and a check for 7,000 and another one for 7,500 from the Marcellus Shale. And I don't think they can hold that indefinitely, and they possibly could give it to somebody else if we don't use it. So is there any way through grants or transferring the 12,800 to get rid of that whole Carriage Park issue so that the money from the Marcellus Shale can be directed toward putting a pavilion and a playground in that Campbelltown Park? I mean, when is
So-
that going to be realized?
Let me start from the beginning, and we've discussed this. This is probably now the 4th time that I've had to clarify what you've stated. And you've given a lot of information there, most of it inaccurate. First off, that you're talking about the Campbelltown Park is what you're speaking of.
Yes.
There is no Carriage Park. So the
I
Campbelltown,
said Carriage Park is the development that was apparently,
The two
it
properties
had
are
absolutely
unrelated.
nothing to do with Carriage Park.
okay,
That park was purchased by previous supervisors 10 years ago. I'm not exactly sure of the time frame. And they borrowed money from the general fund to purchase that park. And it was stated at that time that absolutely no taxpayer money would be used to go towards that park. And yes, there are plans that have a park and a pavilion and all those nice things, but again, it was stated that no taxpayer money would be used to do those things. The grants that you're speaking of are matching grants. So unless we have a donor that's willing to donate that money to be a matching grant, we cannot accept those grants from Marshall and wherever they're from.
And so far, there was 3 donors, Faith, myself, and the Humboldt Town Sun.
Yes. And I've had
donors to match that?
Yes.
Willing to contribute
Okay.
towards it.
willing to contribute, not a complete match, no. So that's first off. You had a bunch of other stuff in there, again, inaccurate.
Well, there was a resolution 7-2016 that was to get a pavilion in the park.
Yeah,
That is
not
on
using
record.
taxpayer money, correct.
Yes.
Yeah, not using taxpayer money to get that.
But
So
in
if you
addition-
have a donor that you're aware of that's willing to give somewhere in the realm, I believe when I did the pricing and had it all laid out, what was it, $15,000 we still needed?
Yeah.
So if you have a donor that's willing to donate that money, that would be great. We'll go ahead and move forward with the pavilion. As far as what you're saying with what's being moved out and given and money switched around, it all goes back to paying what I would reference as robbing Peter to pay Paul. They robbed the general fund to purchase that park.
Which, to
So
the best
when,
of my knowledge, was never approved.
so what we need to do is still when the money comes in, which is fee in lieu of, am I using the right term, Patrick? Or park rec and fee in lieu of, that money goes towards back the general fund that was borrowed.
And is the manager or any of the supervisors aware of any other grants that you could apply for that would do something with that park to get the money? And there's like a lot of other things in the township that need to be done. And it would be nice if somebody from the township who is knowledgeable would look at grants that are available that could be applied for, because I don't remember, hearing about any grants that the township applied for a long time.
So Ed Hauser, I'll call on you. What was the grant you recommended that we look into that you guys got the?
Sunoco pipeline.
Thank you. I did apply for that 2 years ago and we were denied. So yeah, you're making it sound like we're not doing anything, but we have done things, and most of the grants that you've shown us or brought up are all matching. So no, I'm not aware of grants that just give money for no matching at this point.
And then the other question is in relation to the MS4. You had 750,000 listed there. Now, is that to do actual project work, or do you have to pay money out to have like some kind of proposal, like from the engineers, to come up with like some kind of design proposal, whatever, before the actual work can be done in relation to any MS4 project?
So at this point, we don't have any MS4 projects happening right now in the township besides the one that we have. Frank, what was the grant that we got over across the street?
ME2 grant, wasn't it?
I'm sorry,
ME2 grant?
the one at Lawn Road. Yeah, so
That's
that's,
the 90,000 from the Sunoco?
yes. So, but, yes, but for the MS4 projects per se, we put that 750,000 aside because we're in the permanent cycle where we have to reduce 10% of our sediment load. So we initially thought we'd be working with PennDOT on Lingle Road to have that accomplished, but they're singing a different tune at this point, which I think you were at a meeting where we stated that. So we're still up in the air as
You're
to,
gonna take care of that?
We
have no idea what they're doing at this point. They're saying something else. So we will be setting up meetings to discuss that with them.
And I think didn't we direct the engineer to look at alternatives?
Yes. So we have to spend, we have 750,000 set aside, but the end result is by, what's the end year of our 5-year permitting cycle now? 2024, 25?
24, yeah.
2024, we have to have a 10% reduction load per the DEP, EPA, one of them, unmandated.
And in addition to that 90,000,
Unfunded
it's supposed
mandate.
to be repairing buffer work on Spring Creek, I believe it is. Can any of that, like the MS4 work, be extended to do more repairing buffer work on Spring Creek to reduce the flooding that happened, I think, this past year on 322?
Well, those are things that we'll be looking at per our engineer to figure out what the best MS4 projects are for us.
Okay, and one other question, on the website, it had about the Sunoco pipeline update. Are there any other, is there any other information other than what was on?
No.
Okay,
No,
because,
there's a meeting next week, and I told you that as soon as I get information from that.
and that's
then-
from Sunoco?
Yes.
Because this says it's on HDD drilling, and Sunoco has a terrible record with their HDD drilling.
Well, that's why the introduction was they actually reached out to us, and I took them up on that, and we will be talking to that and find out a little bit more of what's going on. It's going to be a great opportunity for me, myself, to understand a little bit, and then I'll bring it back to you.
Because in Chester County, there were wells that were
Absolutely, but we're not in
contaminated.
Chester, so it's a whole
Well,
lot
it's
different here.
HDD drilling though.
So,
Does that
it's just
cover-
horizontal. That's not vertical, okay? So
Well, that's-
so
I
that's just
think it would-
piping, so it's just piping it through. That's what I believe initially was going on, and that's what I will confirm for you.
Okay, because I think with the HDD drilling, they used the bentonite, and that's what was contaminating the streams in Chester County. And
I
we
would
have
propose we
harsh-
move on.
Yeah.
Okay, did we go through your stuff because you didn't
Yeah,
say what your
that's
topic
it.
was? Okay, Chad Smith from Step Back Engineering, are you on the agenda here later?
I'm not. I would
Okay,
probably be placed on the agenda, but I will tell you just to kind of speak up during public comment.
okay,
Again, Chad Smith from Steckback Engineering, representing Rodney and Paulina Heisey on a approximately 60-acre parcel. And
How much was that?
60 acres. They want to do a 4-lot subdivision. And the purpose of me coming here tonight is basically to ask for you guys to waive your review. And I'll explain why. Here I have a plan. I didn't print out enough, so
Let's go to
hopefully
planning
we can
committee.
share here a little bit.
Missed the last.
Only about a quarter of an acre of the 60 is actually in the township.
Are you looking for our opinion, just in general, because you're kind of at the wrong meeting for this. This should have sort of landed at the planning commission first, unless you're just looking for a,
Well, I mean, the waive itself wouldn't come from the supervisors.
Yeah.
normally always starts at the planning commission. I mean, if you're looking for a general consensus, we've made a practice in the past of doing that, but I don't, personally,
I think he's saying most of the projects not in South Londonderry, right? Is that what you're saying?
Correct, only the-
okay.
So before, yeah,
I
here's,
understand now.
is this
I got
the
you.
little bit that's in ours?
That's
Is
correct.
that, okay,
that's correct, so I
I
didn't.
stand corrected.
Okay. Like I said, it's about 60
figure out what we were
acres,
looking at here.
four lots. They want to propose, and just so you know, the rest of it's in South Amwell Township. I did already meet with South Amwell Township on the concept of the flag lot proposal with a single shared driveway. Currently, at that location, there's a cell tower access drive going up Old Mine Road. And to utilize the same access point for the sharing of the 4 driveways. So the purpose tonight, again, is to see if you guys would be willing to waive, understanding that only such a small little bit is in South Londonderry Township. The rest will obviously be reviewed by London County Planning Department and Bolt Engineering on the review of subdivision, land development, stormwater, zoning. Everything will still be reviewed.
Do you know what this actual area is?
It's just woods.
I mean,
Yeah,
The
square
actual
footage.
area,
footage or
I-
acreage or-
I don't. If I had to guess, it would be about a quarter of an acre. Maybe a third, roughly.
Patrick, do you have any legal things?
I mean, it's a small amount of property within South Londonderry. Did you say South Anville's waiving land development as well?
No.
Okay.
I will be going through the full subdivision land development process within South Amwell Township. They will be reviewing, they will be approving. The idea was not to have to take it through 2 municipalities, 2 boards, and
What
for
are
this
the-
small.
Do you know the properties immediately across the street? Like, is that wooded, you said? They're not developed lots?
Across the street, across
In
Solomon?
lots in South Londonderry.
Across the street is, there's some larger single-family homes.
But they're not owned by your client.
No, this is the parcel that.
Where is the line for your client on here?
This is his parcel. These are all owned by others.
So he owns this
Correct.
section?
That's
And then
correct.
where does the farm go from there? Back?
It's all just woods on the
Oh,
hillside,
woods,
on the
okay.
mountainside. Yeah, he owns, what you see here is the limits of what he owns. That's the full 60 acres, and we would like to subdivide it into 4
Oh.
lots shown.
Gotcha.
And the
Now
shared
I'm following
driveways coming out on the Mine Road here.
Correct, and it's coming out of the location technically in South Anvil Township.
Right, I
It's
see
really
that.
close to the line, but I did there, you can see it, we did plot the actual sign. The sign's in there, if you look really close, it's actually, so we are just on the South Anvil side of the,
Wait, engineers have been,
So you're proposing to bring each property will have road frontage,
yeah, each right, that's, so to comply with zoning requirements.
but you're gonna keep the shared driveway?
Correct. Well, I'm not gonna keep it, there's one driveway that actually comes straight up the hill, and it exceeds slope requirements.
Okay.
It's just a driveway for the cell tower access. We plan to, as you can see, slope it going around back and forth. That's to gradually go up the hill to maintain a maximum slope of 15%.
So
So
in reality, there is absolutely no work proposed in South Londonderry Township.
not at this point. I don't think there's gonna be any grading or anything that's gonna associate that driveway. Everything is gonna be within South Anvil Township. Yep.
what do you,
Yeah, so I'm just gonna, I haven't seen this but, I mean, it looks like there are potentially 2.5 lots of the pole in South Londonderry Township, right? 1, 2, and maybe half of this one.
Yes.
So Patrick, I guess I'll, defer to you and to Denise with, do we have to look at minimum lots with requirements in Londonderry Township? Or is, and being flag lots in addition, any requirements for the pole in South Londonderry? So is this something that needs kind of a look at the zoning to see if there's any issues?
Whenever the board considers a waiver of land development, which is what you're requesting, you're asking for a waiver of the SALDA requirements. Any waiver would always be conditional upon them still complying with the zoning
Yeah.
ordinance, building code to the extent it applies, stormwater management ordinance. So to your point, they'd still have to comply with the zoning ordinance unless it was determined, number one, you don't need to because there's, that little bit being in the township, and number two, maybe it isn't an issue. But it would still be a condition of any waiver that this board would consider. I mean, what you've done is unfortunately you put them in a tough spot. You handed them a plan with one night. The engineer hasn't looked at it.
That's fine. I don't even need a decision tonight. I wanted to just open this up for discussion and present it. If you guys want more information, I'm certainly happy to do it. This was kind of an initial discussion. I didn't even expect a decision tonight. I mean, if I get it, that's great.
I think the issue, Patrick, is these clearly wouldn't meet.
A lot with.
Yeah.
Well, so if your municipality itself allows flag lots, typically the widths are determined or measured at a point back further, at which it gets wider, and that's up for interpretation, certainly by the zoning officer, but in the past, typically allowing flag lots, obviously at 50-foot width, obviously you're not meeting your lot width in that area. But all lot area requirements, widths would be measured at a point back further where it kind of gets bigger, the lots. Unfortunately, the shape of this lot.
I mean, this is the very same situation with lights welding, we're on the other end of it.
Right.
Where North Londonderry defer it to us.
Yes.
except, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think, Patrick brings up a good point, I don't want to cut you off, but, they may end up having you as a zoning hearing board to address lot frontage issues in South Londonderry, but waive your approval of the overall plan. So you may be exempt from one process, but you may have to go through another process.
Because for the zoning ordinance, there's no ability for this board to waive whatever requirements you may be held to.
That's
In order
fine,
to
yeah, I
get
understood.
those up.
That's fine. you know, if it's subject to a zoning review and approval process, that's fine. And if you guys aren't comfortable with waiving the process at all, you know, I'm here to
Okay.
ask that question. And if the answer to that is no, we'll certainly submit plans.
Okay, can we hold on to this and we'll put you on the agenda?
Yes,
I guess it would be, what are we in, I guess it would be March.
correct, that's fine.
Okay, we're not holding you up too terribly long.
No, not
Okay.
at all.
You want to do it at the workshop? February
Yeah, we
workshop.
could, sure, yeah. The workshop is sooner, so do we have a date on that?
26?
February 26th? We'll put it on then.
Okay.
So we'll have our zoning officer and our engineer look at it and see what we need to do.
That's fine.
All right?
Thank you very much.
Connie, you have a
Thanks.
question?
Yes, this same incident took place a number of years ago on the opposite side with this land when it was subdivided with, it was 10-acre lots. And actually, the person who owns the house directly, well, Bill, who actually bikes, he lives up in that area as well. And the guy who owns the coffee shop lives directly across what he's talking about. My concern about all of this, and when you put in development, when they even put 1 or 2 houses up there, the other side of the street is getting a substantial amount of water. People have had to put in walls and retention walls, and I know the one guy, he had a pond, his pond got all clogged with runoff and things like that. So I just asked the board to look into this a little bit more closely because of the situation that happened in the past. You know, what looks to be like a small, you know, amount of land in South Londonderry Township, because I know exactly where he's talking about, it's on my street. And, you know, it will affect other people. Because I don't know where the flag lots were actually gonna be, because there is a hill right there. And I know PennDOT, just for approval, you know, where these you know, people would come out of their driveway because it would be a safety hazard. So I know PennDOT has to be involved in where they'd have these driveways. So there's a lot of things here at stake.
Yep, but I think he's just at the
I
initial.
am not
We're
asking
I know, but
for
I'm just
any
saying.
waivers of any stormwater requirements.
you're
We
fine.
will comply in every way. We will obtain PennDOT permits, we verified site distance.
You're at the
None of
very
that is
early
being
stages.
waived.
We're fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. We'll put you
Thank
on
you.
February 26th.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Any other public input? All right. So if we can move on to approval of previous meeting minutes. We're looking at January 6th here.
Motion approved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
And the regular meeting minutes from January 6th. Do I have a motion for, wait, I have one, ooh, I'm sorry, hang on. I knew I had one correction. In the, I know we just approved these, but the reorganization, it says on the UCC Appeals Board that one appointment is open. That's incorrect. So if we can get that. It's Max.
Max
He
was
said
going
he
to
would
say.
do it. So it's Max, Bill Leonard, and Dustin Hostetter. We do not have an open appointment. You want my
Yeah,
copy?
who is it, Max?
Max Straley. It's on our, you know how we have that spreadsheet? His name is on there, and he's still willing to do it. That was confirmed.
I would make a motion to correct the January 6th.
Reorganization.
Reorganization.
Meeting minutes as stated.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry about that. I knew there was one that was. And motion for, did we do the regular meeting minutes? A motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And January 22nd, meeting minutes.
So moved.
I wasn't there, so.
Oh, I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, bill and payroll lists, we have 220 and 320. Do I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Turning to our new township manager. Sorry, we were going pretty fast there, that wasn't fair. Okay. Do you have a report for us?
As we discussed at the last workshop, the Board of Supervisors and I met with RJ Hall representatives who oversee both the non-uniform and the police pension funds. It was a very productive and informative meeting with several items requiring action and will be included later on in this agenda. Again, I know that there was a lot of questions at the last meeting here on that, so we are calming some nerves here. We sat down and basically asked a lot of questions, and we got clarity on it, and we're making positive strides, and we'll be in good shape on everything. And we'll continue to watch and monitor that throughout the year. Both the external auditing firms with the sewer authority as well as the township have been in the office here over the last 2 weeks, and we've been working to finalize these audits. At this stage, no material findings have been identified in either one of the entities. So from an accounting standpoint, it looks really well at this point. No findings whatsoever, no material findings outside. A meeting has been scheduled here with Sunoco Pipeline representatives to introduce themselves to myself as the new Township Manager, and also to be able to provide them an update of the plan of the pipe work later this year. I know Jamie had raised the question on that, so I need to reassure the residents that there is no fracking taking place here in the township, as from what I understand, the pipeline is transfer fuels through the township. It won't be going into drilling or anything like that. So I'll get that confirmation here again. The township also is waiting to hear back from PennDOT for a meeting to discuss the upcoming road work that is being planned on Linville Avenue. Again, ties into the MS4 work also, but again, the dialogue is being discussed there, so we're waiting for a date of that. Started some internal meetings within the township here, and one of the things that we've done is I had the opportunity to meet with the police department this past week, and we started some strategic planning meetings, and all it is just discussions of where do we want to go, what do we need, where are the problems, and it starts the communication. What we'll be doing is we will be putting together a report from some of the other areas. Tomorrow I'm meeting with the sewer area as well as the highway folks. Two separate meetings, and we'll be doing the same thing in the office and meeting with codes and zoning as well as all the administrative staff in the office to figure out exactly what we need over there. And ultimately then what we're going to be doing is reprioritizing, and also then the big issue is how much does each of these items cost? So we're trying to be putting some estimates with that, and then we'll be bringing it back to the supervisors to let them take a look at this and then add input, and then we'll also open it up to some public discussion. Because again, what we need to do here is we need a plan, okay? Short term, in the next 3 months, next year, the next 5 years, maybe even going out 10 years. And again, the strategic plan is it's dynamic, it's constantly changing. Something comes through, the wonderful legislators over here in Harrisburg come down and say something, we're going to have to adapt accordingly. All of a sudden that may come up to the top of the surface. Something else, something may change, we go a different direction, and things get bumped down. So again, it's a dynamic effort that the collective communication of the supervisors will be driving this, and with the public input. So again, there's reason for our madness on this here. I've done this before, and it's very effective with being very transparent and trying to get input from everybody then, and hopefully the supervisors are the ones that drive this. So then we'll also be able to incorporate some of this in the 2021 budget. So that, again, there's a master plan here on all this. So it's creating a little bit of a buzz internally here. And hopefully it will create a buzz externally as well. So that's it for the manager's report.
All right, thank you. Zoning Code Enforcement Officer.
You have my report. It summarizes the activities for the month of January with permits, issues, and complaints. I've been working with Frank, the engineer, has been absolutely wonderful, taking a lot of time to go through everything together. I really appreciate all of his help on everything. Also have been working with the police department and residents on some of the complaints that we've received within the township. And we're working on resolving the ones that are more long-term, but have been out in the community, and it's been absolutely wonderful. The residents are great, and everybody has been very nice and welcoming. So things to note from last meeting, we have, Chief and I will be meeting with the executive image people for the computer replacement schedule. We are going to have 7 computers replaced. This was in the budget. And we will be doing that, I think it's next week, and come up with a schedule so that we're not doing all 7 on one day. But we'll come up with a schedule for the replacements of those 7 computers. Additionally, you had asked some questions about, are there resolutions for an RTK assistant officer? Your current resolution does not have that provision. I don't know, I'll leave this up to legal at some point to provide you with advice, but I still think that that would be a good thing to have as somebody assigned as an alternate. That way, if the manager were to take a vacation or whoever is assigned as the RTK officer, you have that time frame that somebody can ask for the extension right away. You had also asked about if assistant zoning and codes was an open position, and that is. That is something that has not been assigned, but is still vacant.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to do that by title or by specific name, but that is something that is open as well.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do I need to announce this evening what we received?
It'll be coming down later.
Oh, you have it down later. Okay. All right. Patrick, do you have anything?
Just a quick follow-up. So John, the new manager has been appointed, he is the right to know officer.
Yes.
You're referring to a potential alternate in the event that we want.
An assistant.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
because if the manager goes on vacation and you have,
I can't go on vacation, that's it.
yeah, you need to have just a backup that somebody can answer for the extensions.
Yeah. No, that's,
Staffing.
You have a laptop.
it's up to
And-
I'm sorry. So nothing specifically listed under my report, but if you recall, it might have been 2 months ago, the Flight Path 1 land development plan was before you. You conditionally approved it. There were some conditions outstanding. Since that point in time, the applicant has provided signed stormwater management agreement. In the last remaining document, I think we were waiting for the development agreement, and one thing that was tripping that up was the traffic contribution and the traffic impact study under the saldo. And I did just receive either Monday or Friday of last week an executed development agreement as I prepared, with one exception, and that is the traffic contribution. The amount that they're proposing to contribute is $5,000. The basis for that is they included an estimate of a traffic impact study to be in the ballpark of $4,000, with the understanding that the contribution is basically a fee in lieu of that study. I've talked to Frank a little bit before the meeting, Jack. I'm not sure if the board wants to further discuss this or hold off on it, but if you would want to authorize proceeding with approving and executing the development agreement with that addition, I do not have any strong opposition at this point in time, based on what we have in front of us.
Okay.
John, what are your thoughts?
I think at this point in time, and we have been talking a little bit about it, Frank talked about it a little bit to us today, with the traffic study, the question is what's going to come out of that? What's our exposure? It doesn't look and appear like there could be anything major that would come out of that. So really the exposure is very minimal, if any. That $5,000 fee is probably a fair number at this point in time.
And in addition, if you recall, they did provide financial security for the sidewalk. That-
Right.
There's a deferment for the sidewalk, but they did provide financial security. So if you're looking at what's coming at it from public transportation or pedestrian transportation, the sidewalk would be the key component, and that's already going to be provided for through the financial security. And Brant Road was already rebuilt, so.
Okay. Do I have a yeah. Do you have a question?
I have a question for you, Patrick. So the last year, we've been working on the employee handbook, and I think,
I'm not sure that has anything to do with what we're talking about right now.
excuse me?
That doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, but is he done with his?
No.
No.
They
No,
have
we're-
to decide if they're going to pass a motion for the flight path
Oh,
development.
yeah.
And if you have a question for me,
I
I
thought you
guess
were
after.
finished, I'm sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
Chad, did you have?
Just to comment what you said at this time, I think the issue that, the arrangement that we had before, it almost sounds like you could change it, and, I mean, I've made that same statement because of your resolution to the customers I'm working with now, so or you made the statement like, well, for now, that makes sense.
Based on the information that I've been provided here and from my understanding of it, I mean, if it's already basically set up here and, I mean, you're not gonna put traffic light, there's nothing else to be done there.
Well, yeah, I'm just making, because like I had 2 other customers and I've explained that situation, and I just don't want
Well,
to come back.
I think
I
his
think we got-
recommendation was to move forward. That's
Yeah,
what that
it
was my
was, but it was
understanding.
lot specific. Now, if you have a use that could come in with a significant amount of traffic and that traffic
Okay,
impact
that's fine.
study could say something different,
Yeah,
that's a different scenario.
I understand.
But based on my understanding, this specific use on this specific lot, well, I'm not gonna put words in the book.
Right, this
The
applies to
agreement
this
that you
specific.
proposed
That's
has
It's
that.
lot specific, this
Yeah.
lot and this proposed use.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion on that?
I would make a motion that we approve it.
I second.
Do I have any other questions on that? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anything else, Patrick, for your report? It sounds like we have a question from Connie for you.
I do have a brief executive session item with respect to litigation following the meeting, and the other item I was gonna report on, it looks like it's later on the agenda with respect to Carriage Park. So that's it, unless, so you have a question?
Right, I do. About the employee handbook, we worked on that this past year.
That's on
I think as a township, we paid you, I think it's like $4,000, and it's not even completed.
There is a draft, and I don't know how much I was paid. There was a number that was thrown out about a year ago, and that number was inaccurate. It included some fees, I think, from the prior solicitor.
That was me. I requested that. That was a right to know that I did, and those were the numbers Jenna provided to me.
And I-
Specific to the handbook, they were not inaccurate. I could show you.
What I said was, I don't think they were all associated with me.
They were.
I think
They were.
some of the manual was with respect to the, when it started was with the prior solicitor. And I think it was all of them.
No, it was you. It was.
All right, well,
your-
it's fine.
Oh. I just don't want to be labeled a liar. It was.
No, I'm not saying you were. I'm not exactly sure you were. But there is a draft out there, and it just hasn't been adopted yet.
Well, I mean, there's just been so much discussion, I mean, that's a lot of money, and we don't even have a handbook.
Well, you have
The
a
employee well, we're not utilizing it.
No, we're under the old employee handbook
Right,
currently.
Right, I know what that one it looks like, but I'm just saying, all this money, I just was wondering where we're going with this, because it was always tabled, and so, and all the money spent, where are we going with it?
I
It
think,
was tabled.
It's still on future discussion on the list of things that we will be discussing. Yeah. It's,
As a, like, when?
I don't know.
Depends how long
When
the
we get
meetings
there.
take.
yeah, we haven't given up on this, I think,
We
it
have-
started.
To be totally honest with you, Connie, it'd be really helpful if you have these things that is, this constant conversation, if you could ask to have them put on the agenda, because we come in here, we have things on the agenda, and you purposely ask questions to get, things stirred up, and that's great and that's fine, but if you could put it on the agenda, that has to be put on the agenda, that would be helpful. Then we could prepare to have answers, because now we sit here and we speculate, which is what you want, instead of having the answers that you'd like. Well, where is it going? I don't know, perhaps you could have asked to be put on the agenda about the handbook question. We could have been prepared to answer. I'm not perfect, and I'm not going to have every answer that you want right now.
Just to give you a little bit of an answer.
This is,
The draft.
Do you want an
employee-
answer? Patrick, we can move on.
yeah, let's just move on.
Okay, let's move on then. So we have, Patrick, you're done with your report? Yes. The other items on the agenda? Okay. Chief, can we have your report, please?
Sure. Just some statistics from January. Officers reported on 287 incidents, made 6 criminal arrests, issued 47 traffic citations, 3 non-traffic citations, which were for retail theft, disorderly conduct, and underage drinking, and also gave 13 traffic warnings. The only other thing I have is just today I received an updated, revised special events application from Tour de Gretna. And in their conversations with West Cornwall Township, they found out that there was another event that was going to be using Old Mine Road, which was originally part of their
Oh, boy.
so they changed their course, and now They used Butler Road and cut off everything east of Butler, just essentially shortened their course. Didn't really change anything for us. It actually might make it better because I would think it'll keep the grouping closer together, not spread out across the course as much. So I'm inclined to approve it. The board is as well.
Do either of you see any problem with that?
I don't.
We already approved it with the initial plan.
I think
So-
at your discretion, right? I think we approved it up to you.
If you don't think it changes anything in our aspect, then
No, I don't.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Chief?
Nope.
Okay. Let's see, we don't have a report from Scott at all, John, do you know of?
No, but I know that he is working on the highway fuels, the liquid highway fuels. He's working on the bid specs for the road work that was approved during the budget process. I think it was $204,000. I don't know where that number comes from, but I remember seeing it. And there was quite a few different projects, resurfacing, different things that were going to be being done, and he's getting that ready to go so that when he comes back from his medical thing, that we can get that ready to go and get that out. So he's working on that. Because we don't want to miss the boat on that. You wait too long in the summer, or in the summertime, and all the contractors are busy and the price of the job just went up. So we want to get in early and get the best prices for everybody.
Okay, thank you. Kendra?
For Scott, are you on municipal authority meetings?
I have.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see how much time he misses.
Okay.
Kendra, from the library, your report.
Okay, the library board met on January 21st and will meet again this month on February the 18th. Tickets are now available for the annual Vineyard event. It's scheduled for Saturday, April 18th at the Vineyard and Brewery at Hershey from 7 to 9:30 p.m. Tickets are $50 per person. Lisa's Cafe will be supplying the buffet dinner, and the Vineyard will supply the wine and beer. Silent auction items will be available. The library will be closed this coming Monday, February 17th for countywide staff training. The ornament and periodical sponsorship fundraisers resulted in $500 in contributions during the holiday season. And in 2018, the annual fund drive brought in $27,045.25. That was $11,137 less than the year before. That's it.
All right, thank you.
I just have a comment because I was just at the library for a meeting on last night, actually. And it's just, every time I go in there, I see things I didn't see. It's a great resource. I think sometimes those of us that don't use it often or kind of forget it's there in this township. And, you know, when I see the people on the computers that may not have access to high-speed internet or a computer at home, when I see the kids like using it, when I know that I can go in at any time and get a meeting room that doesn't cost us anything, I think it's a great resource. See me for tickets to that event, and it's good to have it in South Londonderry. So.
Thank you.
Well, I got one more question.
Oh,
Do you think, was there a reason associated with the decline in the?
Yes, because we were running a capital campaign.
Okay.
People who normally would have given to the
Contributing
annual
to that.
fund drive. We expected that there would be a decrease.
Okay.
We weren't aware of how much, but bringing in over $500,000 for a capital campaign, we can't complain that
Yeah,
we're
exactly. I was just curious.
$11,000 less, but.
By the way, congratulations on that.
Campbelltown, do you have a report?
For the month of January, we had 40 calls. Average response per call was 7. Average response time, 5 minutes and 18 seconds. We assisted Palmyra 4 times, Lawn once, Mount Gretna once, Anvil once, Lawn Ambulance 15, Lifeline Ambulance 2, and Hershey 2. There were 6 building fires, 1 brush fire, 1 gas leak, 18 medical assists, 2 accidents with injuries, 3 accidents with no injuries, 1 power line down, 3 canceled en route, 1 carbon monoxide, and 1 assisted the police department.
Thank you. Jack, do you have the lines?
Quiet month in the village, 5 calls, 1 automatic fire alarm, 2 canceled en routes, a brush fire, a truck fire. 4 of them here at home to South Londonderry and 1 to South Anvil.
And since John's here, do you have anything for us, John?
Well, like I usually say, if I don't have much to report, it's a good thing, but on the upscale note, North Londonderry Township is working on joining our regional EMA organization. I just had a meeting with them this morning, which was real promising. There's some good trainings coming up that we're planning on attending, and I just attended on February 1st the 3 Mile Island training session that they have over at the Lancaster County Public Safety Center. I attended a session on basically strategic planning and fire departments working with their township officials to solve any issues that are going on. So it was very informative session I went to.
Okay, thank you. All right, Palmyra Area Rec and Park Commission.
I have nothing.
You have nothing? Okay. We do have, we had unapproved, not unapproved, but draft Planning Commission and Fire Board and Authority minutes in our packets. I just want to note to everyone that the Fire Board at the last meeting determined that their meetings would be moved to quarterly instead of every other month, so the next meeting is April 7th at 7 p.m. Township official input, anything?
Yeah, I do have something. First of all, publicly welcome John. But second of all, just for the residents to be aware, when this board was looking for people to fill those key positions, one of the things we stressed was customer service. Enforce the law, but be customer friendly and look for ways to actually get things done. So that's the reason, I think, in my mind anyway, I can't speak for the two, but a big part of the reason I think we found some of the right people. So anyway,
Okay.
Welcome.
Jack, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay, I don't have anything either. Moving on to lawn, Little League fields. I'm assuming Tim Morgan is the gentleman with the baseball hat on. Welcome.
A legend. Pleased to meet everybody. I'll just try to make this short and sweet, so we can all have an understanding here of what I have in mind. I've been involved in baseball in our community now for almost 35 years, coaching Palmyra High School, 24 years. Still currently coaching Campbelltown Legion, which is the same high school players. And I've been involved with the Palmyra Civic Little League program since 1982. The whole time I was still coaching the other organizations. So now I've reached a point in my life that's starting to wind down. I'm completing my last year with the Legion team this year, as well as coaching and sponsoring a Little League team for Palmyra Civic, which I've named the Lawn Beagles. I raise beagles and German short-hair pointers. But anyway, pretty much when I moved into lawn in 1973. And since I've been there, there were a lot of changes taking place. The feed mill burnt to the ground. The township picked up the ball there and decided to put in a baseball field for the kids. I helped design and build that field with local people, poured the concrete dugouts, installed the benches, made the bullpens, a lot of what went on out there other than the heavy stuff. But at this point, I'm currently running an upgrade to the facility. I mean, everything is pretty much in good order, but when we installed the seats, the benches in the dugouts, way back in the beginning, we actually put them pretty much in the middle of the dugout. So what I'd like to do, I'm currently running an upgrade construction project, making the dugouts larger, which would mean we're going to make the dugouts the same width, and we're only adding 9 feet onto each dugout. All right? we are going to build roofs over the dugouts, exactly like the ones that we have in at 4th Street in here, which is really not that big of a deal. You can see what I have here, that's an end view of it, and that's the front view right there. Okay?
Yep.
It's pretty simple. I think it's something we definitely need for the kids. There are over 450 kids that use that facility with the Civic every year. And I'm going to do a lot of the work with my cousin who's a contractor. For instance, I just ran into Brian Stauffer, a great cement guy from Elizabethtown. He's donating all his time. He's gonna help us form the dugouts. All we gotta do is pay for the concrete. I have a Mapledale fencing from out that way. I got 2 prices on the fencing to fence in the additional 9 feet and drill the holes for our posts for the roofs. That's what they would be concerned with. And I also want to install a flagpole and a flag in center field. That way we can possibly get into doing some national anthem and things like that. I have contacted a lot of the local prominent businessmen in the area, and I am starting to get results. The season for the kids opens the first week of April, and I'd like to have this completed by then, which we have plenty of time. I mean, it was a shame. I started this discussion with Jenna back then, and then she ended up not being here, and I started talking with Scott, and then I was fortunate enough to meet John. And that's why I'm here tonight. I wanted to let everybody know what I had in mind, what I proposed for sponsors. Sponsors that donate $400 to $1,000. They're going to get Blow Signs does all my sign work and stuff like that. They're going to make a permanent aluminum sign, almost 4 by 8 foot, to install on the sections on the outfield fence, which will help offset some of the costs. I mean, we all probably know how that goes. I mean, I'm talking to millionaires and billionaires, and I'm not getting no response, but they have their offices right in town. So hopefully that will get better. But if need be, like I said, this is not something overly major here, and I'm willing to do the work and get it done at no cost of mine. And like I said, my cousin's son, he has a contracting business, and he's gonna help me do the roofs. And we gotta find somebody to help us out with the flagpole and the flag, which should not be that big of a deal. Now, I did get, I was handed a building permit to do this, and I am clueless on that because, like, I'm not the owner, and you can help me go through this. You know what I mean? If need be, I'm lost with that.
Well, and that's one of the things I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Number one, first of all, that the Board of Supervisors understood what your plan was.
Yes.
They supported it. Once they supported it and everything, if that's the case, then obviously then we wanted to get you hooked up
Sure.
here on the permitting side to make sure that everything is right according to the rules of the game.
Well, would he be the one pulling the building permit if it's a township that owns the land?
No, we own the property.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we own the property, then
We'd be pulling a permit on our own?
ourselves, yeah, essentially. So basically, we have to follow through and make sure that all of the signs, for example, would
Meet the
follow
requirements.
Right, and we would also have to make sure that we're not
Well-
impervious coverage and everything, what we're changing. But I'm not sure how that would work within ourselves.
We had to follow the same.
Well, I'd like to interject here with one thing. I know I spoke briefly with Jenna about this situation, that I'm pretty sure she was already approached by certain individuals about travel ball, which you know what I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I'm not a big fan of travel ball because I know what happened when our high school would let them use the high school field and they play 5 games Saturday, 5 games Sunday, and then we show up with our high school team and the mound is like destroyed. Because you have, kind of like the Little League organization, we have over 450 kids on the teams, and all the dads want to complain about everything, but none of them ever want to show up to help do the work to maintain the fields and things like that. Now, I live right across the street from the lawn field. I've been dragging the field, taking care of it, the sheds and all the little stuff, because I cannot stand living there and having it not be the right way. For instance, I see coaches that let their players out in the outfield dig holes with their cleats and just make spots. There's just a lot of simple things that need to be addressed. Now, Jenna did discuss, and I got prices for all the other facilities in this area that allow travel ball. They receive $50 per game. So I'm sure that, John, you will be approached by people, especially that lawn field is virtually going to be one of the nicest ones around with the nice grass and the country. I mean, we actually still have a clay mound that I helped build with red clay from Carl Epler. That mound's been there now for over 15 years and it's in great shape. And we just, if people want to start using that, I think somebody should regulate how they got to take care of it when they're done.
So we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it. At this point, we do have a scheduling system for the parks because we set one up because we have the soccer program using the Campbelltown Park. So we can cross that bridge once we get to it. First, I want to thank you for your years of service because I'm imagining it doesn't pay much, if anything at all.
And I can attest to the fact that Tim virtually single-handedly takes care of that field.
So we appreciate it and we thank you for all that. That is amazing and shouldn't go unrecognized, so thank you.
I appreciate
most volunteer jobs you're never really appreciated as much as you should be, so thank you for that. It looks to me, it looks to me like you have a very ambitious goal, and I'm excited to hear somebody in the community thinks that they can raise $9,000 and have the project done by April.
Well, I'll tell you, that's
awesome.
$9,000 price. And like I said, now I already have a cement guy that's not going to charge no labor. I'm not charging any labor, so that price is going to come down. But that's what I presented to all the businesses. I mean, whatever they can contribute would be fine. And if they can't, if I have to use my own money, I don't have a problem doing that because I know I was too late for the budget this year, you know, and I'm just
you just want to see a project get done.
I mean, that's why I'm ending my time with the older boys now because I have grandsons in the mix and I love working with them little guys. They're just great. And that will be a big thing for them to have dugouts like that there's room that they can all sit on the bench. Right now, things are tight, you know what I mean? It's been 20 years now since we've done that field.
So I think at this point, what we as a board need to do is approve that you can go out and solicit to get money for this project.
You know, Jenna already told me I could, that's why I did this.
Okay,
so.
well, I'm glad you came to us because technically
thank you.
we need to approve that you can send this letter out
I mean, I
on
didn't
behalf
want
of
to
the
just
township.
go start this, you know, but you know where we're coming from now anyway.
But thank you for your diligence on getting us to this point. So we, at this point, just need to approve that you can solicit this and that the project can go forward. We obviously need to do it under the condition that we follow the rules that's stated in our ordinance.
I know we're talking about the permitting and things like that. I really want to make sure that.
Well, I know, I don't want to interrupt, but I know that, I've always been against travel ball, believe me. I've coached the best kids to ever come through this town.
It's not about that.
But it's a community park. Community comes first.
Correct.
Not travel. And that was my complaint about it before. But now, apparently Jenna wanted to start generating money.
Well, we're not in the business of
She's
making
not-
money, and she's not here
she's
any
not-
longer, and it would still have to go across from the board.
I have nothing to do with any of that. But that's why
So
I'm
let's-
glad I'm here tonight, because I had no idea what was going on.
Let's figure out
Yes.
how to get this done, right?
Okay, so do I have a motion of some sort?
I would
to
make a
get-
motion that we take the proper measures to support Tim in his efforts to make the improvements to the lawn park as referenced in his January 2020 letter that he provided.
Second.
Do I have any questions from anyone? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anything else you need from us, John, to move forward?
I'd like to make sure that we get all the specs of what you plan to do to incorporate in the building, the building permit and things like that. And so that way we can pull the permit and get that's all clear.
Should I come in and see Denise?
I think that would be the best way to do that. That way we're consistent and clear, we're following all the rules, and we know exactly what work's gonna be done.
Right.
And we're doing the same thing that we would have any other resident do.
Absolutely. And it's very simple. You saw the picture, we're putting a roof over the dugout and 2 6x9 slabs of concrete.
It may be simple to you.
Yeah.
To you. I want to make sure that it's articulated properly and we're all angles are covered.
And you'd be surprised how simple a project becomes complicated when you run it through our ordinance. So, yes, we just want to make sure we're doing it correctly.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
You betcha.
Okay, moving on to proposed hotel site along 322, Joshua Weber overview.
Joshua Weber with Crystal Engineering. I've been in contact with your staff, and they requested I come and just give you a little bit of an update, a little bit of information here. So we have a meeting set up, I believe, February 25th. This is for Lena Hospitality. This is the motel located next to McGuire and Ford. So this is just a little sketch.
Is this the same as what you sent us?
Yes. Yeah. So this is the same that we sent you. So you can see we have a parking survey at this point. We're hoping to get the staff meeting together, lay out any large items that we would need to deal with. So you can see some of the existing motel there, and then we have the hotel laid out there. This hotel layout is most likely going to change to a certain extent based on the meeting and final design and grading and that sort of thing. But I just want to come here and present it to you just to let you know that this project will probably be happening in the next couple months. We're going to have the meeting, then we'll start some of the harder design as it goes. But looking, it'll be a 4-story hotel. I believe less than 100 rooms.
Can you orientate me here? What is this?
So that is the motel. McGuire's Ford. It would sit over here.
Okay.
And we just
It's
have a
not the
partial
whole-
survey. We don't have the full survey. We wanted to make sure we got kind of through this first hurdle.
Okay.
And then we would finish survey and then come out with a full sketch and design plan.
So that rear setback, these lots are the lots on Thistledown?
Yeah, so these are the residential lots
Yeah.
with the rear setback. This is McGuire's
Right.
rear, the non-residential. So
Okay.
And the creek doesn't run anywhere in through
yeah,
here?
that's more.
It's over this way over here? Okay.
Here. So yeah,
Does
there's-
it jet that way or something?
It goes down through.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a little pocket of wetlands.
Right.
Turn that out. There's a little pocket of wetlands down there. So it is over here further.
Okay.
And we do show a setback there. So we just wanted to give you a heads up that this is going to be coming. We do have staff review, so we'll be looking at the zoning and then getting into the land development ordinance and.
Okay.
So I know when McGuire was built, they had that buffer of trees, so those residents were, and lights that went, like, are you guys gonna look at all that stuff?
Yeah,
They'll
yeah,
have
so
to,
we'll have
yeah.
to do for parking lot lights, the cutoff lights, we do have some landscaping shown here now, so
Right.
if that needs to be extended and revised, we'll certainly do that, but we're in the very early stages, just wanted to make sure we didn't run into any major zoning issues.
Are they expecting to do anything to the current?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't believe so.
Gosh, how many new rooms will there be? And the reason I'm asking that is from an authority standpoint, we have to hook that into the sewer line. So we want to make sure we understand where the capacity is and where to go from that.
Yes, I will have to get you that number, I don't know that off my top of my head, I don't have it there. I believe it's less than 100, but also the existing hotel is on an on-lot sewer system. They also want to connect that into the public sewer system.
Do you know how many of the existing hotel?
I do not.
Okay.
I
For the
can-
25th meeting,
Yep.
we should know that to incorporate that.
Yeah, we'll have a room count, and we can get that for you, sure.
Big stuff going on in Little
I
Campbelltown.
suppose so.
Okay. You don't need anything from us, you're just
No,
giving us a heads up.
Just giving you a heads up, we'll
Okay.
be meeting with the township staff and going from there, and then we'll work on the final design and grading and the stormwater and all that good stuff, and be back to see you then.
Okay.
So, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Exactly,
On 322.
Well,
Next,
Behind the speedway, would lie behind the speedway.
Okay.
any other questions?
What,
Yeah.
are you concerned about the impact on traffic?
That would have to be addressed in part of their planning.
If anybody wants to see it after the meeting, you're welcome.
I just wasn't sure, I heard
Oh, there's-
too, but I wasn't quite sure where exactly it was. Now that she asked, I guess.
Yeah.
That just makes.
That would be part of it.
Traffic.
That would be part of everything they'd have to go through to get to.
So it's not happening?
It's not even close to
Okay.
even, like, they're still meeting to get the paperwork to even go to planning commission.
Gotcha.
It's very early.
Okay. Oh, and I thought he said it was like starting, that's what I was like.
Oh, no, no.
You're
the
right.
Starting in,
beginning
like,
of the
let's talk
process,
about
like,
this.
yeah.
Yep. All right.
Thought I missed something.
Nope. Moving on to new business, pension funds. John, will you lead us through this and give us your recommendation? We've had several discussions about getting,
What we have
Everything
is
approved.
in your packets, we had an investment policy for both the non-uniform and the police pension funds that we met with the RJ Hall team members with. And ultimately, what it is like any financial manager, you have variations of mixes of depending on the stock market looks good, you get into some of these items, and if it doesn't look so good, you get into some of these other, and it gives them some nimbleness for the financial advisors to do their work, that they're not waiting for us to dictate anything. So this is more of an overall investment policy, to be honest with you. Should have been done a long time ago. In my past life at another municipality, the same document was not done, and we need to develop it. And so we met with the supervisors here the other week and kind of went over this. And really, it's a broad allocation scale that it gives latitude to the financial advisors to do their thing, basically. And it's pretty standard in the industry, but at least it has something there. It's supporting everybody then, so.
thank you. Do I have a motion to approve? I guess you just need my signature and the
Yes.
manager's signature, or just
I
mine?
think it's just.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve me to sign these?
You're not talking about that though, right?
It has, yes,
It's part of.
no, it's the defined benefit plans, yes, it's
This is the defined benefit plan. This is this is the one where all the.
You talked about the investment.
Yeah, the investments of the managers are, principals doing right now currently, that they put the diversification through. And
I thought those were gonna be two separate, I thought we were talking about two separate documents.
there are two separate documents there, one
for uniform and one for non-uniform.
Yeah, but I thought when you were talking about the investment plan, I thought that was gonna be a separate that would allow them, or is that contained within the language? Okay.
Yes.
And this is the same as the one you sent us?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Do either of you want to make a motion to,
I'll make a motion to approve you to
do I have a
execute that.
second?
I'll second it.
Okay, do I have any questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And then we'll move on to the other RJ items later in the old business. Okay, so now moving on to North Side Crossing Apartments. Craig Smith, thank you for being so patient. Is Craig still here? Yeah, oh, you're Craig. Okay, I'm sorry. I was like, wait, he's leaving to go get Craig. No.
Good evening, Craig Smith with Org Guest Associates, along with members of Brownstone Real Estate. And we are here to discuss the Northside Crossing rezoning petition. And really, in talking with John, I think the purpose of this is really to have a discussion with the supervisors, get some feedback, and then set a hearing beyond this meeting that would then become.
Well, no, I mean, so you've requested the board to consider a zoning amendment, a zoning map amendment, as well as a text amendment to the zoning ordinance. After hearing you out, the board will, I don't know if they're gonna decide whether or not they're okay with it tonight, or if they're gonna mull it over and come back at the work session or a following meeting. And if it's something that they're amenable to, if they're gonna consider an amendment, then they'll go through the process of creating the ordinance, holding a public hearing. But I think right now, the idea is you're gonna present whatever I think they have, you probably have the petition that they submitted to the township. And if it's something that they wanna move forward with, they'll decide. But it's not gonna be a hearing automatically. It's gonna have to be based upon the board being okay with whatever if it's gonna be your proposed amendment, or if it's gonna be a hybrid approach as to whatever you're proposing as to what they think is a better fit.
Understood. Yeah, okay. Just to give a little bit of background, so this is the North Side Crossing Development. This is North Side Drive, Palmyra Road, and these are the existing apartments that are out at that community. There's 76 apartments there. When this project was originally done, it was under different zoning. There was RR2 zoning here, this was general commercial. This was done under a TND ordinance. Since that time, the ordinances have changed. This is now multifamily residential zone. This is highway commercial zone. And again, at that time, this commercial area was created along Northside Drive. It's about 6.6 acres in size. There was a community center that was built. There was a bank that was built as a part of the original property that was Northside Crossing. So since that time, Brownstone Real Estate has been looking into or trying to get commercial users to come in as part of Northside Crossing, and that really hasn't come to fruition. I'm going to say probably about 8 years or so, just as a guess. This has been sitting vacant. This section has been sitting vacant. So what we are here to propose is a map amendment that would actually change this 4.4 acre piece of this to multifamily residential zone. So this would simply be an extension of this zone. This would remain in the highway commercial zone at the corner property here. And really the reason for that is because there is an opportunity to use this vacant land that has been sitting there for a while for multifamily purpose. And we know that this community is fully occupied. There's actually demand for multifamily rental units in this community. I had someone come up to me at the Planning Commission and said, this is, I'd love to live here. So we're really responding to what the market is dictating and how we could use the land appropriately. So as a part of the application, we submitted a concept plan, and although this is not technically part of the application, we're going to go through land development process if this were to be rezoned. We did want to give the township and the supervisors an idea of what's intended here. So what would be intended would be 42 apartments, along with parking on either side for this community, and it would be really an extension, again, of what exists out there now. There is a buffer that exists, there's a pathway, there's a plant screen that exists that will be retained as a part of this project. And so what would be intended, again, would be these 42 apartments if this were to be rezoned. So along with the map amendment, we're also requesting a text amendment that would change the density of what's out in the multifamily zone from 4 units to the acre to 10 units to the acre. Right now, the new zoning ordinance, for whatever reason, no matter if it's a single-family home, a townhome, multifamily, they're all 4 units to the acre. It does not differentiate between the density for apartments, which is kind of a little bit contradictory, but we would like to amend that to be 10 units to the acre. Back at the time when this was developed, this property actually is about at 12 units to the acre or so. So we're actually requesting something less than what's currently out on the property. This density would be about 9.5 acres. Along with that, we were requesting to amend the village overlay ordinance to allow for the apartments to be 10 units to the acre as well. And that doesn't have to do with this project, although just to be consistent with the other apartment density, we're requesting that to be part of the ordinance, so there's not a contradiction in the density. Couple things to point out as a part of this project. First of all, the streets are obviously they're existing streets. They're private streets. They're owned and maintained by this community. So really, there's no additional burden to the township from creating new public streets. That would be then the township's responsibility. The other thing to point out is that the parking, if you look at the sketch, the parking requirement for 3 spaces per unit is not met. We're proposing to do two spaces per unit which is consistent with what happened up here. Now, rather than changing the ordinance and making a situation where that would be across the board, across the whole township, what we're proposing to do, if this were approved, would go to the zoning hearing board for a special exception that would propose an alternate parking solution. And really the purpose of this is, what we don't want to happen is you create these great expansive impervious cover parking areas that are then not utilized. And it becomes, first of all, more stormwater, more impervious cover that would not be utilized. One of the things that we have done, and Wendy Smith sitting back here manages these apartments, we did actually did counts on the utilization of these parking lots that are out there in November, and we came to find that every time that she had done counts throughout a couple-week period, the lots are about half full. And these were only built at 2 parking spaces per unit. So again, we want to be reasonable and not overdo the impervious cover. I mention that because, again, not part of this application, but that's the intent if this were to move forward. Another thing to point out, the utilities are there. In talking with Brownstone Real Estate, they have actually secured the sewer capacity for this project. So they have reservation on the EDUs that would be required for this project to occur. In the narrative, we went through and talked about some of the commercial land that's available, some of the highway commercial. There's other parts of the township that are either mixed use or village commercial that would have similar commercial opportunities. And again, unfortunately, this really was not marketable enough to have a commercial user come into this point. And that's, again, the point of the whole.
How much did you market it? I mean, I saw the signs go up now, and I was looking at LoopNet for a while. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
What was the question? I'm sorry, how long has it been on the market?
No, how have you marketed it? Like, I was looking at like some of the LoopNet stuff. I just saw signs, like newer signs, go up. But I didn't see this in a lot of the commercial sites, so I was just curious.
It's on the Bright MLS site, which connects to numerous national sites and so forth. Actually, the Bright MLS is the largest MLS in the entire country. It includes how many states?
It's 6 states plus DC. So
yeah.
It's a huge MLS.
I was just curious. Like I said, I was just curious.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And it was listed with the commercial broker in the beginning, which was on all the commercial sites we partnered with.
We actually it's been 12 years since we sold the land to where the Redner's market is now. And so we've been trying to move those properties for 12 years. Because we don't do a whole lot of commercial in our firm, at first we actually partnered with a commercial broker to try to help us out that and then learn a little bit. That was early on in the game that was unsuccessful, unfortunately.
So, a side note, you said Redner's Development. Do you all own that too?
We do not. We sold that to Cedar Shopping Centers in January of 2008.
And they've been, I'm assuming, unsuccessful in filling those other 2 lots?
So that adds to the puzzle over there as well, because they have 2 pad sites that are, one's larger than the other, but they've been trying to market those for, commercial users to come in, drugstores, restaurants, things of that nature. Same type of people we would be interested in, and they have not been successful with that either. Although, I think the mall's pretty successful there, and the store is, but they haven't been able to move those.
The 2 pad sites. That's what I was curious about. Yeah.
The big thing we run against, and what we've learned over the years, is that we want to get these big, nice users to come in, but they're very particular on what they want as far as when they look at the demographics and they look at the traffic counts and things of that nature.
Sure.
And also part of it, this is not on 322 from a feasibility standpoint. Sitting back from 322, correct me if I'm wrong, is a little bit of a challenge.
In fact, that 322 is a much busier.
Yeah. Passerby. So again, this is the reason that we're here. We really think that this makes sense simply as an extension of what's already out there. And again, they have potential tenants, and they know they would have the market to fulfill those rental units. It also does align with, you know, some of the, and this is in the narrative, I'll just touch on this briefly, but the Palmyra region comp plan indicates that rental units are in demand. The county comp plan out and goes into some detail about some of the vacancies in the commercial property. And again, so point being, there's opportunity for reuse, there's opportunity for things that we had just talked about, and there's opportunity in other parts of, you know, the commercially zoned property. Some of those properties are residentially used, some of those properties are already accounted for, but there are opportunities for some redevelopment to happen as well.
Craig, if I could mention a couple of things. One of the things we feel is important here is that our clubhouse, which has a fitness facility in it, has a place for people to meet if they so choose, has a swimming pool. It's just a stone's throw down from here. You could throw a stone and hit it right down the bike path, which connects also to our athletic field. One of the things too that people, I think, falsely assume on, you know, rental projects, I think sometimes they get a bad name, but it's not cheap to live there. These folks are paying from $1,100 to what's the townhouse feel? $1,700. $1,575 a month, and many times that's larger than some house payment when we sell a house. So, you know, we've got all kinds of professional people in there. We did a demographic study of that. All kinds of different ages in there, from retired people to single, you know, young married. So it's really interesting to see the types of people that actually do that. This type of housing fits a need for them. We've been very surprised by it because this is our first venture into this type of development, and it's been eye-opening, actually.
So let me ask a question to Patrick, maybe the zoning officer, or Frank. In our zoning map here, we have very, what I'll say, little highway commercial area and a small amount of multifamily residential. What happens when those are all used up and we don't have the ability for a builder to use those things?
We'd have to see what uses, I mean, some of your uses carry over between zoning districts, but inevitably there might be a use or two that don't get carried over, and if you don't have any highway commercial to you know, house that type of use, then you're kind of putting yourself out there for potential curative amendment. Now,
Even if we have it, it's just occupied.
you have to provide for every use, whether or not it's developed. I mean, someone could be developing.
Well, right, as I say, I mean, if someone wants to go in and offer these guys $500 million for all them houses in there, they could redevelop it, I'm sure. So we wouldn't.
No, when this came up in October, I think you guys were here, and I shot emails back and forth with Aaron
Moranis, yes.
And I had initially realized after that meeting that there is not a lot of highway commercial. And I had suggested maybe you want to add that particular use to that without changing the zoning map. Consider adding the use that you're thinking, which is the multifamily, and just adding that as a permitted use into the highway commercial. And they didn't go that route.
No, because I think our concern was then you could buy McGuire's and turn that into, we didn't want to, it was the board's general consensus at that point that we didn't want to do that. I guess my question though is, if McGuire's Ford is there and the other highway commercial areas are there and they're all taken up and they're all used, and somebody wants to build something but we don't have the ability for them to build it.
But you provided for it?
It's provided. We have highway commercial in here, right?
It's just the land that's zoned for that has been developed, you're okay. I mean, you can't, obviously townships, specifically boroughs, get built out.
Right.
There's no potential vacant properties, and you can't prevent.
So if we get built out with how this is in any zone, as long as it's provided for in here, whether it's built upon or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
That was my question. Thank you. Okay. Sorry. Side note. Just looking at the laws.
Yeah. And in relative terms, I mean, 4.4 units of all the commercial land, to rough calculation in the township, but you're talking about a very small percentage. You're talking about like 1.5% that would be changed from commercial. I'm talking about the whole commercial. Commercial to multifamily. So again, the whole point would be, you know, this use seems to be appropriate for this particular location as an extension of what's already there. One other thing I wanted to point out is that we talked with the Planning Commission about this as well. We want to make sure that there's pedestrian connections even to other commercial uses over here. So part of this project would be to, you know, extend some sidewalks to make that safe connection to the commercial piece that's down here now. The other thing that I know Don mentioned at the Planning Commission when we were at that meeting was, you know, part of the rec contribution for this project could be to extend a trail up to the school. And they would be more than willing to do that. I mean, they have done similar things in the past, including the athletic field that's out there. And, you know, really the people that were here in the Planning Commission seemed to think that was a good idea as well. So I just put that out there as a part of the land development plans. If this were to move forward, that would be part of the project as well.
Okay.
Any questions, thoughts?
I was not at the planning commission. What did the planning commission say? Do we know?
It was a 3-1 no vote.
No.
Would have been 4 if I was there, to 1. I missed that one. I was at the first one.
I'm correct in that, right, John? Yeah, okay. Do either of you have questions, comments?
Was a lot was made of the donation of the road to the township at the meeting I was at. Was that in the business plan?
Was that in?
In the business plan. In the whole business plan, that donation was accounted for, correct? I would imagine when you're coming out with a donation, a design that requires a road to get back in there and you donate it to the township, I would imagine that 1.2 million was accounted for. In the business plan?
I'm going to have to defer to what Sam said.
In the business plan? Imagine there was a business plan, was the donation of the road to the township that was brought up several times, that was accounted for,
Are
correct?
you talking about the Campbelltown Connector project?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about that if you'd like to.
No, I just want to know if that was accounted for in the business plan, that's all I want to know.
In what business plan?
For the whole, the whole project.
Yeah, what happened there, and of course this was a long time ago, Phil Rothmel and Hugh Henderson were on the board then.
Right.
And it came up that when we bought the 66 acres for this, most of this acreage is west of Palmyra Road.
Right.
But yet, on your preliminary plan for South Londonderry, you have a culvert bypass.
Yeah.
All the way around.
Correct.
And they didn't want to see what happened to that preliminary plan bypass where it was west of Palmyra Road, or Lingle, where they built a development and just went all over the place, and now it could no longer be built. So the township thought, if we're going to develop that, it would be nice if we could run that road all the way out to Fords Road. Of course, you couldn't afford to develop 66 acres and build a couple miles of highway. So we met with the supervisors and we formed a private, public partnership with them. And part of the deal was that the township wouldn't have to pay anything. We would pay all of the cost.
Yeah.
And that was considerable. It was.
Yeah, I guess my point is if it didn't make business sense, you wouldn't have done it, correct?
Well, it wouldn't have made business sense if we wouldn't have gotten the federal grant.
Right.
But we did get the federal grant. I think it was in excess of $4 million. And it didn't cost that much to build the road. I think the township got the excess, by the way, which was good.
Yeah. I'm not saying they didn't, I'm just saying you guys, you accounted for it.
We spent a ton of money, which was good. It was in our business plan.
Thank you. That's kind of what
We hired Delta Development Group as our lobbyist.
Familiar.
And of course, we're still on the list. We're still getting whatever you want to call it. But we went with Senator Spector, Santorum, Representative Fulton, and Constantine went and got the money. But we spent probably in excess of $1.5 million worth engineering, et cetera.
I understand that, but
signing the document, as a matter of fact, I have it here in case that question.
I totally understand that, but my point was it was in the business plan.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the waiver from the township, which we signed, they acknowledge that we want to inform you of your rights in the matter to document you're willing to waive your rights. I acknowledge that the township has informed me of your right to just compensation. Estimate of compensation is $810,000, and we waive the rights to get the township to pay that. We did that. And then there was another one about $500,000, so that was in our business plan, yes.
That was really.
I think it was a win-win for the community as well as us.
Yeah, I'm not saying it wasn't. I just merely pointed out there was a lot made of it the first commission meeting, and I just wanted to clarify that it was in the business plan.
It worked out. And in addition to that, let me just say, on the preliminary plan from the township, where that was proposed for the bypass came out on the flight plan at the airport, and PennDOT said no way. So we negotiated with the church to buy some land for them to move the road over on their property. We rebuilt them a separate driveway. We gave them land that we had so they could put a pavilion up in a ball field. Matter of fact, we did the ball field. We negotiated with the airport because they had to give some land, and we gave them some more land for that. So everybody worked together on the thing, and I think it's great.
I think the point we're making with all that is that we've been around for a long time here in South Londonderry, and we've worked very well, and the township has worked very well with us over the years. And I think that when we say we're going to do something, we do it. And I think that's the point we're trying to make.
And I do appreciate that. I understand that. Frankly, at the time, the other development was probably doing your work. They were probably a client of mine. So, I have very much a Greenlee Partners lobbying firm in Harrisburg. So I've done these projects. I understand these projects, and I would have been shocked if it wasn't part of your business plan. That's all I asked. Thank you.
Yes, Jane?
Now, how many levels are the apartments? Are they going to be 1 2-bedroom apartments, or all 2-bedroom, all 1-bedroom?
They would be similar to what we have there right now, which would be 2-story buildings. And what we would build is 2-bedroom apartments, because that's where our shortage is, and that's where the need is. We have a waiting list for people that want those, and we only have 38 of them. And so that would be what we would propose.
Okay, so at this point, for us to move forward, what are you looking from us? Or what motions do we need?
We'd be looking for direction on next steps.
I mean, the decision for the board is, do you want to consider a zoning ordinance amendment similar to or this? And there's no ordinance before you this evening. You'd have to proceed with the MPC requirements for, you have to send, first of all, you have to prepare it, then you got to send it to the county planning commission, you have to allow the planning commission to review it, then you have to hold a public hearing. But your decision at some point will be whether or not you want to proceed with what they're requesting, or something like that.
Right.
I mean, they're requesting a density increase from 4 to 10 per acre.
Correct.
You know, whether that's something you're okay with, or if you want to see something in the middle, or you don't want to see anything at all.
For just the apartment piece of the multifamily residential zone.
So we need to, if this were to move forward, we, as a board, would need to decide whether or not we want to have the zoning amendment, move it to multifamily residential instead of highway commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And then also whether we would consider changing the density.
The text amendment to increase the density for that specific use.
The rest of it would have to go to the zoning. There's something that would have to go to the zoning.
It all would. I mean, if you're ready to consider that and consider a motion, it would basically be for me to prepare an ordinance reflecting what they're requesting, if that's what you're okay with.
Well, I don't know. I'm hearing from Bill that he's not okay with that, but I don't know where Jack sits. And
So I was at both of the planning commission meetings, and honestly, I struggle with this one. I don't live in the Campbelltown area. Obviously, I live on the other end of the township. I'm a rural guy, so this is not my living style. However, I have talked to a couple people that live in there that absolutely love it. But I can't find anybody outside of there that is real thrilled about it. That doesn't mean it's not a good project or it's not a good use, but where I really struggle with is, I've said it in these meetings before, is we don't have enough commercial space, period, in this township. I'm not gonna say it's a never for me, but it's too controversial for me. I mean, I know it's been on the table for months and months. If you're asking me to vote today, I'm probably gonna be a no. Would I consider it in part of a larger discussion? Like, I've mentioned, I'm not thrilled with how the speed of the zoning ordinance being revised is going. So that's what I mean as part of a larger discussion. And do we need changes elsewhere? You know, does the lights welding project bring up a, you know, do that commercial holding or the agricultural holdings, you know, we're surrounded, or, you know, we're starting to infringe, you know, to push against that. Like, do we need to have a larger discussion? And I don't mean to side rail it off this project, but that's where I'm at with it.
So am I hearing that you think, aside from this project, since we don't have a lot of highway commercial and you're not like the zoning ordinance book is not moving anywhere. Initially, when we asked for that to be changed, we were saying we are not changing the mapping.
Right.
That's not part of what we're interested in.
I would like to see as part of that. I'm not, the only thing, do not quote me as I want to change all of the agricultural holdings developments to any type of residential. So just so we're all clear, that is not what I'm proposing. What I'm saying is, you know, as we build out and we push against that, we have to keep looking at whether that makes sense. I know Sean was really pushing you know, you got it elsewhere, you got it elsewhere, you got it elsewhere. Well, does that elsewhere still make sense? I'm not proposing any great changes to the zoning map, but I've always been of the opinion our zoning ordinance does not allow enough uses anywhere. Like, and that was even when even as the zoning, the planning commission made their way through the medical marijuana, there was a great effort to just squeeze them down into one, and that's how our whole zoning, and again, not to derail it, but that, no, I'm not proposing a vast sweeping change on the map. I'm just saying that
The use available for the sections.
yeah, like, do we need to reevaluate the uses? And I would like to see more uses allowed in various zones. I think we need more commercial development. Like, I agree with Sean Donnelly that we do not get the return on investment. You know, the industrial users are not in here asking for their leaves to be picked up, and the chipping and the sweeping, you know, they're all private, which, again, these are private streets and these folks won't eat it. It's just, I'm not comfortable at this time with it. I just don't, it's not, that's where I'm at. Like I said, I'm not saying that I'm a no forever.
I like what Jack's saying, so I'm kind of where you are.
Okay. So that leaves us, yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I don't believe, I live in the village here. I know you live in the village also, but I live actually on 322. And there are a lot of people that have been on the waiting list, because I've talked to some that are trying to move in this area. And I think it does blend well because it's right next to the zone that we're already looking at doing. So my concern is, again, we don't have a lot of commercial area, but I think with this project, it is right there. And to see vacant lots that, there's 1, 2, 3 vacant lots that have been there for 12 plus years, or 12 years, I guess. I don't like to see that either, particularly when there's a need in the community for something like this. So I guess at this point, it sounds like there's 2 no's with moving forward and 1 yes, but.
You anticipate retaining ownership of these?
Oh, yeah. Forever.
So what happens if we don't move forward anywhere on this?
If you're not moving forward with the ordinance, there's nothing to proceed with at this point in time.
And what are their options? Are there any?
Unless you want to come up with a different approach with respect to a zoning ordinance.
I mean, are we bound to a certain time period with this type of?
No, what this is, it's a request for a zoning change. And if the board is not in favor of proceeding with an ordinance that's going to be amending it, there's no avenue or recourse. I mean, it's a request, and it's, at this point, it sounds like the board is not, they don't have an appetite for it. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, 2 out of the 3 do not.
Right, I'm sorry.
That's
The
okay.
majority.
I mean, this me speaking, will you give us a month, you know, me personally, I wouldn't vote, if you're gonna force me to vote tonight, I'm gonna be a no. If you'll let me stew on it and talk to some folks and.
Just for encourage you to do so.
Yeah,
and listen, you know, this is a big decision for you, and no, we want you to.
I have a question, actually, and this. Can you show us something? Okay. I'm looking at that and you're putting more people there, right? Does that make those commercial lots more viable, whether it's yours or across the street? Like, is there a...
That was an aspect I considered, that perhaps
Means by putting more people there.
Right.
Yes.
Like, would a Starbucks want to go in if there's more density there?
Well,
if there's more people that would actually stop there.
All I can tell you is
Dunkin'
when
Donuts.
these people, these commercial users look at a piece of ground, they're gonna look at what's around it and how many people drive by it every day. So obviously, the more residents you have surrounding it, the more potential customers they have, the more viable those pieces become. So the answer to that is yes.
For certain kinds, it won't be a gas station at the end because the traffic isn't there.
Right.
A Starbucks, absolutely. 200 and some families going to work every morning, and will stop at a Starbucks.
And lots of moms traveling to Lingle every day.
Right.
And as
Just
far
kidding.
as demand, we do have that. As a matter of fact, we're making Todd very unhappy now because his mother-in-law's on the waiting list.
Nothing like that. Ooh.
So I see these projects, we're involved with them elsewhere, and I gotta be honest, of the 5 that come to my mind, 2 of them are less than desirable after they were built. You know, the dumpsters are overflowing all the time with mattresses. It's clear that there's a very high exchange rate. You're telling me that's not gonna happen, you don't think, because of that, but convince me that this is gonna always look as nice as the...
Okay, there's 2 things. First of all, when we built the units, not the apartments, but the townhouses, they're similar to what's up the street. They're actually better. They put many extras in it. Furthermore, when the mortgage is paid off in 30 years, I'm going to be very wealthy. This is a family project, and it will remain in the family.
Yeah, this is a family project, and you know, Don is my father-in-law. He took the lead on this. Todd's my brother-in-law. But this is something we're proud of. You know, this is something our kids will have someday. You know, and so we made decisions along the way that it's not going to be shoddy. And if it looks shoddy, we go see Wendy. And she gets on whoever she needs to get on. But that's, you know. Yeah.
What is your maintenance plan? Like, do you have a maintenance plan on when you rebuild or revamp each apartment? Like,
So
how does that work?
Part of what our property manager does is they handle everything from the leasing. They're on site in our office there where our clubhouse is. But they provide a budget for us, which we review monthly and yearly. Maintenance is pre-scheduled. So we know when they're going to replace.
Nice, John.
Chairs.
Add that to our replacement? I don't know what that was.
So no, that's planned out in advance.
I hope it's better than our maintenance plan.
As an example of that, we had some, what do you call the boards in the
firewall.
Yeah, the firewalls in 18 of the units was malfunctioning from when they bought them, and they were causing some moisture to drip down. So we contacted the builder, good builder, Stoltzfus is an excellent builder. He contacted the place they got the firewalls from, and they said, fine, we'll come in and spray them. And then that won't happen. We said, no way, replace them. Furthermore, when you replace them, we want 18 new roofs. We got it done. So we have buildings that weren't even a year and a half old, and they replaced 3 brand new roofs on 3 buildings, a total of 18 units. So that's an example of what we would do.
Okay.
I have a question. I mean, I was at the planning committee, or the planning committee meeting, and there was a large discussion about the number of children that could possibly come in here. I know the business model is one where that's not necessarily the case, but inevitably, there's going to be children. And with that comes the cost to the school district and the taxes and things like that, not to mention lack of playgrounds right there. So how is that going to be monitored? I'm not familiar with the other areas.
Well, I can address that. First of all, I mean, it can change any time, but typically, 2-bedroom apartments are not desirable for families with children. For example, we have 38 of them right now. We have 3 school-aged children. I think the argument was made, well, if we approve this, you can build anything. I guess that's true. I mean, we would be willing to commit to that in writing. We're building 2-bedroom apartments. But again, we're going to do what we say we're going to do. We don't believe that people that have school-aged children go to our 3-bedroom apartments or 3-bedroom townhouses that are available, not 2-bedroom apartments. That doesn't work for them typically. Yes, there could be some children there, but we don't feel in a large number historically. Recreation, we got plenty of that. You walk right down the street and our clubhouse and swimming pool are big enough to handle this. We've worked with our property manager on that, they manage a number of different.
So I'm going to stop you there. Clear in the drawing.
So right here's the community center.
Okay, so
there's a trail that exists that goes from here to here.
All right. So you're going across a road.
Right.
Yeah, it's there now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then our athletic field is right behind, which is underutilized. We encourage, people to use that. We'd like to see more people on there. We got a nice field and a parking lot there. And then adding to that recreation part of it is that we've had some discussions with Hershey Trust Company about building a bike path across the next piece of ground, which is a vacant land between our athletic field and the elementary school for a couple of reasons. So the elementary school could use the field if they so choose, or if kids want to walk or ride their bike to school, they could do it without having to go on a road. So that's something that we believe we can get done as well.
Two quick points. To your point, the decision would be to move the process forward. We'd have to go, obviously, we'd have to go back, have to advertise formally to a hearing.
I wasn't sure if we were bound by a time frame on this type of application.
No, and to your other point about waiting a month, I mean, that's fine with us to think about it and mull it over, would be fine with us to come back at the next month's meeting to review it.
So do I have a motion of anything?
We don't have to make a motion, right? Just automatically.
Well, a motion to
gets-
table it to the next meeting, I guess.
I would make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion to table to March and seconded by Bill. Any questions from anyone? Okay. Yeah?
Just one other
One
other
question.
thing. So we were here, and I apologize, Mark Hackenberg, I was out of the office. Mark Hackenberg was here in the fall. Was it in the fall? When we were initially talking about this, and we were talking about the apartment use within the commercial zone. That didn't seem to be the right direction. And so we headed this direction. We thought this was a little bit better, that it was more conducive to what's already out there. Or just a general question, are we on the right track? If this were to go forward, are we on the right track, or are there other thoughts? I just want to make sure.
That was part of my conversation there about other uses, like, I think there is opportunity, but I don't want to make a blanket statement that, hey, I think we should allow apartments in, in highway commercial, because I haven't really sat down and studied, like, okay, what effect is that gonna have you know, in the highway commercial there, and that was kind of where I was, the direction I
And
was
this,
headed with
this
that.
approach really limits that.
Yeah.
The township, I would think from the township's perspective of other properties, because it's specific to really what's already out there. I just.
It's right next to it.
Yeah, exactly, but
I-
just want to make sure we're on the right path.
I think you came in the middle of a much larger discussion that we were already having.
Okay.
You know, we're already revising ordinances and trying to get that through the planning commission, and we're involved in this large discussion about, you know, getting that stuff back from the planning commission, so
Yeah.
I think you kind of came in the middle of
Understood.
all this.
If
So I
you're
think we don't
interested
know.
over the next few weeks and you want to stop out and see Wendy at the clubhouse, she's there most days.
Every day.
And, you know, she can answer a lot of questions about.
Do you have a card, or can you send us your?
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate it, thanks.
Okay, so now we're moving on to acceptance of the zoning codes officer resignation. So unfortunately, while Denise has been doing such an amazing job, she has found a better offer for her life plans. So she will be leaving us February 22nd. I guess I need a motion to accept that resignation.
I'll reluctantly make the motion.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay. A card, are you looking for a card?
Can you?
I was gonna wait.
Oh, you,
Oh, you don't have to wait, just, sorry.
sorry.
I only have 3.
Well, there's only 3 of us. No, thank you.
And
Seriously.
I've been to the clubhouse, but yeah, I'll take, thank you.
We'll talk.
A long time ago. But
Thank you.
No, seriously, come out and visit us.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any questions? All, yes?
I'd like to just say thank you. This has been such a welcoming community. Staff has been great. But like you said, I'm so excited and so sad at the same time because it's been so nice to be here. But the life plan has a certain direction and it's going that way. So thank you all. It's been
Well,
wonderful.
we wish you the best of luck. So, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So moving on to Ducks Unlimited, if you gentlemen remember a while ago, I brought up that I was approached by Ducks Unlimited to have nesting boxes. And when I basically just asked if you would be interested in me pursuing that. So I did, finding out more detail. There's 3 boxes that they're willing to donate, 2 of which will be attached to, and they're looking at putting it over at the open space at Stone Knoll. 2 that will be attached to trees, and 1 that will go into the pond over there. The benefit that I personally see is ducks eat a lot of ticks, and there's a lot of tick infestation over there. So, but that's my own personal,
Anything
that's my own personal, I'm sure you'll appreciate their eating habits. So the Ducks Unlimited representative is willing to install it. He was looking for a 1-inch black pipe that had some treading on it and a coupler that went on that. If we can't find that in our melee of stuff, then I will gladly purchase it if everybody's,
If we don't,
you might have it. And then he was looking for somebody else that would have waders. My husband has waders, so either I'll jump in them or my oldest son, Scout, will jump in them. He doesn't know it yet. But we'll help get that installed if both of you are okay with that.
Oh, yeah.
So do I have a motion to approve that? Hang on. We have a first. Do we have a second?
Second.
Question.
Is it for any particular type of bird? Is it for bluebirds or is it just in general?
Ducks.
Ducks?
Yes.
It is for ducks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. All right. Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to the back page. Old business defined contribution pension plan proposal. So, John, can I hand that over to you to explain and give your recommendation?
Again, we met with our pension folks on this, and this coincides with the, I believe it was an ordinance that was passed prior to the beginning here, with a defined pension plan that, for for all new hires.
Are you uncomfortable talking about this because you're a new hire? Would you rather me
Well,
do it?
I am uncomfortable, I have no problem talking about it.
Okay.
I just want to make it clear that I'm talking about it, and this is a benefit, a perk that I would be the first one I'm receiving here, no offense here, since you're gone.
But also be clear, John, you took the job, he
Yes.
took the job, us saying, well, we're gonna have this defined contribution plan, but we don't really know what it is yet. And he took it.
Sure.
You know, pro bono, so.
So, and here's what's going on here. The main thing on this is I agree with the ordinance that was passed. I agree with what's going on because it's gonna benefit the township in the long run financially. What I wanna make sure is it's set up right out of the chute, because as we have an aging workforce, as they retire, as they may leave, as each new person comes in here, we are competing against other municipalities. With that, we have to make sure that we have a compensation package that is comparable, that will attract people here, and basically not financially devastate the township down the road. This is the approach to do, so it is a win-win situation. You just have to make sure that, I hate to say this, you trump the other local municipalities, so that if somebody has 2 jobs out there, we can entice them over and people are sticking around here and not leaving. So you can't lowball this, or you're not gonna get anybody here, or you're gonna have it as just a stepping stone and people are gonna duck out right away. So that's so important for us that we work with the financial advisors at RJ Hall Associates, and we ask them, what are the other things that are being set up? What are the comparable plans, so that it is set up that it at least looks similar. Where I think you can get something a little bit more benefit here is the vesting. And what I mean when I talk about vesting is, how long do you have to stay here until you can start actually seeing something if you leave? Some entities, 6 years. What you're seeing is some places are vesting, allowing you after a shorter period of time, and that's where I'm advocating. I did say that, I went on record, I think that's the better approach there on that, because I think that you can get people to stick around here and do it if there's something in it for them quicker. And then, once they leave, there's not a liability down the road. Okay, it's just like a 401k basically. It's being funded by the municipality. The key on this here is the municipality receives funding from the state. So it's really a wash is what we're looking at, and that's what I was pitching. That if the money's coming into the state, or from the state for an individual, shuffle it over and step back. At the end of the time frame, we don't have to worry about anything. Unlike the current plans where the other employees who've been here for many years, that liability continues to go on, and until they, I hate to say this, they pass away. And so the ordinance works out so that it lessens the liability in the long run on this. So what's in front of the Board of Supervisors is a plan of different variables that I made some recommendation, and they have to kind of decide what they would like to support going forward. And maybe from legal counsel, maybe you have an opinion on this too?
Yeah, no, I mean, you adopted the ordinance, basically indicating that no new hires are entitled to a defined benefit plan, so now you need the defined contribution plan. RJ Hall is in the process of putting that plan together, and my understanding is these limited amount of decisions are before you to make, so they can finish putting that plan together. You know, a lot of it, this is policy for purposes of the board. I mean, what you feel comfortable with and what you think works for South Londonderry Township employees that are going to fall under this plan. That's that's primarily a decision for the board. And it's actually, to be honest with you, it's nice that I haven't seen. I'm assuming once you provide this to them, they're going to provide you with the uniform or non-uniform employee defined contribution plan, which you'll have to adopt by ordinance. But normally you get like a 10 to 15 page packet of decisions to make, and the fact that they've combined them into
Correct.
one is really nice.
Well, and what you're also doing here is, it's giving the employees then the latitude to set up what your portfolio of investment works. It'd be a log-on system if you go with the, I think it's Voya, so that you can control it yourself. So if I'm a lot younger than I am now, if I was in my younger years, I'd be very radical in going after some of these hit the home runs, really high risk, high reward type of things. As opposed to maybe my later years here, maybe I want to be a little more conservative, maybe a little more, I don't want to lose the investment because I don't have a long-term period to make up the funds if I lose on an angle. So again, it's are you risk averse or not? So it's up to each individual to control
Excuse
that.
me. And am I right, they said that they meet with the employee every year to go over that?
Yes, they give that the latitude to
That's
meet
part
with
of
that. Right.
the package, I guess, so
And
to
they
speak.
can just get into another, if they don't want to do it themselves,
Yes.
it can be managed as well.
Absolutely.
From what, yeah, we have that
Absolutely.
plan.
Yep, yep. And already we have the township already has an optional 457 plan. So again, if somebody wants to dig in their pocket and put in more for their retirement or go to your local bank and do it, you have all kinds of different options there. So you guys have done a great job of providing the employees with options available to them. This is something though that it's very defined on. Here is part of your compensation package.
Okay, so do you guys have do we want to start with a percentage in which the township would contribute? And then do we want to set any contribution per the employee? Because that was also an option that they stated too. Or we don't have to.
We don't have to require.
We don't have to require them to,
No, but
and they
it's-
can contribute as much as they want.
Correct, the employee contribution, the third paragraph, they have, it's the lesser 25% of their compensation or $57,000. So I mean, they have parameters already set up in
Okay.
there, which is fairly simple. I think IRS comes into play on this.
And that's where that percentage comes from? Okay. So we're looking at somewhere between, per RJ Hall's recommendation, somewhere between 10 and 12%.
I saw that at least, two of them that they referenced are at 12%. One I remember was South Lebanon, and there was another one they referenced in the meeting. I didn't bring those notes with, but
South London, 12%. That's the only one I see on here. Okay, are you suggesting 12%?
try to keep it in. I mean, it's gonna be a savings all around for us, so I think we should do our best to try to keep it in line with our competitors, if you will.
Okay, so we're looking at 12%, and then, I guess, do we want to just throw out our numbers now, and then we'll make one motion for them? We need a percentage, we need years of vesting, correct, John?
Yes.
After how many years of service are they allowed to be fully vested?
Just back up one line there, though, to the years, your loop that.
Those were different options there that, I mean, you could actually even back up to the years and say, hey, you know what, after 500 hours, you could do it. I mean.
But here, what's the, in their, mine in red anyhow, the years of vesting is 1,000 hours, where.
You wouldn't even have to do
Okay.
years. It's
see.
literally.
It's one of the, it can be one of the
There was a lot of options there, so I talked with them, I said, just leave those in there and you can kind of fill in whatever suits your palate.
Yeah, what were their,
They were
They have
all
it
over-
zeroed.
They were all over the place. They were
Yeah.
backing up on this and saying,
Yeah.
it's your choice. What I would kept on pushing them for is, what are the other comps? What are out there that you're competing against? And there's definitely some that you don't vest at all right off the bat. And then there's some that, personally, I think there should be some skin in the game for a little bit. The problem that I'm still having a problem understanding is fine, you're contributing, it's supposed to be for me. I'm the one that would be working on the portfolio management for the first year, but yet if I leave before the first year, I don't get anything. So is that really something I should be involved in? Do I need somebody else to do that the first year? I'm not sure.
I like the idea that you get at least a small percentage of it fairly early in the game, because, once they get to some level, whether that's a year and it's 10%,
Right.
25% or whatever, okay, so now you got somewhat of a hook set, if you will. I think that's one options right now, like 0 to 1 is 25%, 2 years is 50, 3 is 100, it seems a little aggressive to me.
So what would you,
Right away, you want me to pick?
well, okay, or I'll pick, I don't know. Or Bill, do you have, I'm just listening to what,
No, I mean, I think when we're talking about vesting, like everybody gets if they left, they get their own money
Yeah.
back.
Right.
When we're talking about vesting, we're talking about the township money that is contributed. I think more and more frankly, like a lot of firms like mine and our competitors are day one now, because it just gets into a competition, once a couple people move to day one, everybody moved to day one. So I think you're right about looking at
but am I right in, when they explained it, am I right in, even if you're vested and you're fully vested, if you've only been here a year, you still only get a percentage of that?
Well, that's what we're saying.
No, that's what you're working here. That's with the other plan.
That's with the benefit,
Right.
okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. So for example,
So now I'm
I
muddling
came from
too. Right.
another municipality, I was there for 2 years. I had to be there 4 years to get 25%. When I left, I got 0, I walked away. And so, all that funding and everything, they just put back in their coffers on that. But what you're seeing is, you're seeing that the new employees, the new generation of folks, they're dancing from one job to another, and nobody gets, you don't get a pension anymore on things like that. It's not transferable in a lot of things, so.
I mean, I think we're moving to, most of the people that I know are young, are already investing, which is incredible to me, with like apps like Acorn and others. I mean, it's amazing to me. So I think we should have a certain period, but I do think I don't know that it has to be that long.
So, are you saying a percentage, or are you saying,
No, a percentage, like it bumps up by a year per percent.
so when are you fully vested? Oh my gosh, I just keep coughing more.
You think 5 years is too long to be fully vested?
No, I think 4 or 5 is fine. Like I said, I see people moving these up because they're in a competitive situation, and it's one of the things people look at. But
I mean, when I went, the one option they proposed there with the 0 to 1, 25, the 2 years 50, and the 3 years 100, the only one that really caught my eye was the 3 years 100. I thought that was pretty aggressive.
I mean, you could get 25, 50, 75.
And 4 years, 100.
4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, generally, someone's here 4 years. I don't know. I think more people move in the first couple of years.
You could always table it to your working session. I mean, it's kind of a big decision here, right?
Well,
We've been working on it though.
Yeah, we've been working
yeah,
on
and
it.
it's not like we're approving it right this second. They still have to draw up the papers for us.
What will happen is they'll send this back to RJ Hall, they'll plug it in, send you the full plan, and then the board will have to adopt the full plan at a certain point. But this is gonna be used to create the plan.
Yeah, then these numbers
gonna
will
be
be
used
used
to
to make
create
the
the
plan, so it would be best if we were accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I think for in fairness too, we have to move on this, like waiting. We already have one new employee, we're gonna hire another. They both took the job without knowing this, which is amazing. Because I wouldn't have taken the job without knowing it. I think, like I said, we're gonna be hiring 2 new people, right? Because we gotta.
No, just one.
1 new people, yeah, we're not sure, okay, at least 1.
We haven't gotten a
Yeah,
resignation letter, so
Okay.
I'm suggesting we don't entertain that until we have a resignation.
Yeah, I agree.
We're still waiting on that.
So-
And I had to talk with that individual, so they're still waiting.
Yes, Connie?
A couple of things. First of all, I guess RJ Hall gave a proposal, because I mean, there was some talk about possibly not even going with RJ Hall?
We had RFPs, they were one of the RFPs.
Yeah, they
We
were
went
the
with them.
responses.
Okay, so, and then the other thing here is the percentage. You said something about South Lebanon at 12%?
Yes.
Do you have the other surrounding municipalities with their?
No, because there aren't very many that are doing contributions yet.
Okay, so South Lebanon's the only one doing the contributions?
That's the one that RJ Hall gave us that was most local.
That's what I was gonna ask them too about RJ, because I mean, they work with other townships. You know, that was the other thing I was gonna ask as well. One thing, and I think it's sad, actually, for you, that you worked at a township for that amount of time, and you left there with nothing. And that's, I mean, there needs to be something for an employee, you know, that you can actually take your money, whatever you put into it, and leave with it, not that you leave with zero. And I don't think that's very fair. And so, and I know different places of employment do work that, but we're talking about percentages, what the township's putting in. What is the township, I don't know if I followed that, what are we matching? What would be the employee matching, what could they?
The employee's
whatever
not
they want?
matching, they can put in whatever they want.
Whatever they want, okay.
It's not mandatory.
Okay.
So I would propose that we do 12%, and we do the 0 to 1 is 25, 2 at 50, 3 at 75, and 4 at 100.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So that would be my motion, and you would be seconding that?
I would be seconding that.
Do I have any other discussion?
And you're include the 12%, you're all one shot here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Now, the reallocation of the non-uniform pension funds from 40-60 to 60-40. Do we just need a motion for this, John?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion to do that?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions about that? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Patrick, the part you've been waiting to counsel us on.
If everyone recalls, Carriage Park development, the road dedication, and the open space dedication is well before my time. But back in July, you actually conditionally approved accepting dedication of that property with a number of conditions, and the developer, owner, applicant complied with the last remaining one in late December. So what I have before you are, and I think it makes sense, to have new acceptance resolutions for each of these. The two roads being Bridle Avenue and Fox Road, and as well as the Carriage Park Subdivision Phase 3 open space deed of dedication.
Does this then put this to bed?
These resolutions accept the dedications of the three, and then I am sure they will move forward quickly with recording the deed of dedication, and everything will be done. The only thing I asked for was, if you recall back in September, they provided us with proof that they paid all the taxes, so there's no tax liabilities. And
Thank you for that.
And because there were.
Yes, thank you for that.
And I asked for it because September, we're in February now. I asked for it again, they sent me the same ones. You understand the hesitant, if we want to get this done, we can probably get it done. I'm gonna ask again to get updated tax, to see whatever liabilities are out there.
Especially given that there were some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, but that's the only other thing, and if they really want to move this forward, they'll get it pretty quick and we'll be done with it. But these resolutions are necessary because they get recorded with the deeds of dedication, because you can't take dedication of a public road without accepting it at a public meeting.
Okay.
And my understanding is they paved all the roads, they addressed all the issues in the punch list, and they've provided, or no, they haven't provided. That's another thing. We have the maintenance agreement. They've signed the maintenance agreement. They've been holding off on providing the letter of credit to secure the two roads, but everything seems to be moving towards that direction. So with all of that said, would you like to move forward with the resolutions?
Yes.
Okay. I believe we're at resolution 07-2020.
Right.
And it would, Bridle. We'll do, this would be acceptance of the deed of dedication of Bridle Avenue. would be number 07/2020.
Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The next resolution would be 08/2020, and that would be the acceptance resolution to accept the deed of dedication for Fox Road.
Do I-
And that would be 08/2020.
Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And the final one would be resolution number 09/2020, and that would be a resolution accepting the deed of dedication for the Carriage Park subdivision Phase 3 open space land.
Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, part of this is the applicant has a place for me to sign for the deeds of dedication acknowledging the township's acceptance. Do I have a motion authorizing me to execute the deeds of dedication?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And actually looking through the minutes from your work session, I believe you've already authorized this, but I wasn't here and I didn't realize you did. So I'll just ask you to reaffirm authorizing the execution of the maintenance agreement with Carriage Park for the 1-year maintenance period for Bridle and Fox.
So moved.
Once they provide the letter of credit.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Phew.
So what was the last one? A motion for the first year.
A motion to authorize the execution of the maintenance agreement. I think they may have done it at the work session.
Provided that they give us a letter of credit. That's good.
Patrick, just to be clear, it's a 1-year maintenance or 18?
It's a 1 year part of the arrangement with the settlement agreement with Carriage Park, yes.
Okay. So,
That's all I have, I believe, for Carriage Park.
thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm just gonna put this out here right now, February workshop, we are discussing sidewalks and the flight path development. And there was something tonight that we decided we were gonna do.
The agenda for Chad Smith, the 60 acres parcel.
Yes, so we're also gonna discuss that then at the workshop, which will be February 26th. Do I have anything for good and welfare? Yes.
Yes, I just want to have a point of clarification because I don't ever want to be accused of giving out bad information. You work for Grimm, Bean, and Thatcher?
Yep.
The total was $41.23 for the handbook, and I have all of those papers on my phone.
I'm not sure what papers you, we
I
can
asked
talk.
Jennifer Billing.
We can talk after the meeting.
I'm
And
just letting you know because you said you didn't think it was you, it was before you.
after you brought it, we can talk another time, but after you brought it up, I
I just
actually
wanted
went
to
back.
clarify for people in the room.
I don't know if you have my actual bills, because when
I
I went
have
back
them
and
on my phone.
I checked my bills didn't amount to that. So
Okay,
I just
I'll show
assumed
you.
it was
I added
part-
them up.
No, that's fine, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, anything else? All right, so our next workshop meeting is February 26th, supervisor meeting March 10th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Are you gonna announce, we're going in?
We did, Patrick did.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
I missed that.
that's
Long
okay.
ago.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for attending this evening. We have this to sign too. Don't we forget. Mid-meeting. I don't think